EA College Football is finally here, and today I've created the ultimate beginner's guide to everyone's favorite college football mode, Dynasty. Whether you're new to the series or you're an OG getting back in, this video isn't just about, everything that's going to be in Dynasty mode, but I will be covering some of that just in case you didn't see any of the pre-release content. But on top of that, today I will be giving you guys 10 tips that will actually help you out today in your dynasties. And at the end of this video, guys, there are a few extra gameplay tips that I will be giving you, so stay tuned for those. First thing you do, guys, is you set your settings, guys, and this is, this is all based on whatever you want to do. It doesn't really, matter too much. It's just like how realistic the experience you want it to be. We're not going to cover too much of that. And then you go advanced, and basically this brings you to the team that you want. And this is not much of a rebuild, guys, but this is my favorite team, so we're just going to click on USC to get started. We're just going to say we're going to be the head coach, and let's say you're creating a new one, guys. Here is where the first tip matters, guys. You either can pick a motivator, recruiter, or tactician. And let me tell you, wherever you start, guys, it is very important. Recruiter basically helps you get better recruits than you actually can recruit in the game. If you're like a 1-star rated school, you can shoot for some 2 or 3 stars above your range, maybe even a 4-star if you dedicate enough time to them. This is going to come with extra perks, and scouting is going to be a lot easier for certain players and certain positions as well. But the first tip, guys, that I will tell you when you go into this, guys, is that tactician right away is cracked. Tactician gives you direct attribute boost to certain players within your dynasty. So if your guy's, a tactician and he's really good on offense, maybe your quarterback and receivers get XP boost. Then you can just have to go out and find a guy that can, coach your line and run blocking, and a running backs type of a coach, offensive coordinator. As you build your coach, guys, the playbooks do matter. So if you're running the USC air raid offense and the 4-2-5, you simply cannot just go in there and recruit a ton of running backs. You need a lot of DBs and you need a lot of receivers more than other schools. Versus if you're like Army and you're running, you need 3 running backs. You need that fullback, you need the 2 wings, and you don't need that many receivers. That's the difference in knowing what schemes you're running. So it's very, very important. Obviously, then you can go on and, do the physical appearance, the apparel, etc., things like that. But we're just going to continue on to the next thing. One thing to note, guys, is for abilities, there's over 276 abilities. And even if you reach max level with your coach, guys, you're not going to be able to cover every single thing on your coach. So for example, when you're going in here and you're building out your coach, there is just simply not going to be enough abilities to go around for your guy. That's why I like the Scheme Guru, because you can even do it on defense, you can do it on offense. You're just basically good at giving players boost because you're so smart about football. Now, if you got to create depth, you can go recruiter, because if you have a lot of receivers, you got to recruit. A lot of defensive backs, you got to recruit. But the recruiting archetype gets a few extra points in scouting, which helps you long term getting more players because you have more time to allocate to certain recruits that you get. So after you've made sure that you've got all your boosts all set up, guys, and your scheme and playbook of what kind of players you'll need, at least we'll now know that we need a lot of receivers probably and a lot of defensive backs. That's kind of because a lot of our sets have a lot of defensive backs. So that's kind of, now that we have an idea of what schemes we run, we can dive in and start doing the preseason actions, guys. First thing you want to do, guys, is you want to jump into this list. As soon as you jump into the list, you'll see all the players that are recommended for you in this recommended tab. You can see the interest right next to the rating column of like where you rank with that guy currently, and a lot of these guys are already, first, second, first, because USC is a good school, so these guys are already, prefabricated in there wanting to come to USC, which is good. But if you're at a smaller school, this helps a lot because there's so many players. There's over 3,500 players generated every offseason. So it's good to jump in and know what kind of guys you can actually shoot for. But there's a trick to actually go for guys that might be a little bit better. You get a bunch of recruiting hours. You do have to use all your offseason recruiting hours, guys. So make sure you dive in there and use all 1,000, because that will change once the season begins. I think that'll go down depending on what kind of program you have. So you have 1,000 right now before the season starts. As you pick these players, guys, make sure you spend all 1,000 hours, because those will not replenish as you jump into the season. So as you go, guys, and you look at, like, let's say you want to filter by 5-star recruits, you can go easily look at which one already show kind of some interest. And the interest, guys, basically means that you've been in their top 8. You can also go down and look at guys that you might need on your team. But the first thing you actually want to do before, as you jump in, guys, is that you want to check the team needs. So you hit the, the right stick, and you can see all the positions that you need. Yeah, fullback's not that big of a deal, but at USC, they're going to need a right guard mostly. And then you can build that depth at right receiver. It's a B- currently. And then you go on the defense, and then you look at other positions like the right side linebacker and maybe some defensive backs. So they're all kind of a B, and it could be a position we can get a little bit more loaded at. So So right end, right outside linebacker, the right side of our linebacker and our defensive line is a little weak. So we kind of now know what we need. And then maybe a kicker and a punter because we're starting to get into the C range and maybe those guys are getting ready to move on shortly. So but maybe those are positions you can also address in the portal. So you got to think about that as you jump in and you build out your board. I like to build my board, guys, up with the best athletes in the country. So if free safety is a perfect guy to target, cornerback's a perfect guy to target, even if we're not in his top 8 to start. It's a great guy, and I always like to get a good quarterback just in case. The biggest thing here, guys, is that you can go look through underappreciated players. There's a lot of good players that don't have offers, so being the first team to offer them is a huge step in the right direction. Even if you're at the smaller school, one tip that I can give you guys is go early and go often. Offer a scholarship right away, send the house right away, and then we're going to dive a little bit more of what that looks like. Getting into that right away is going to go a long way in just helping you build out this team. Even if you don't get a lot of guys at a small school, if you get really, really good guys that first season of recruiting and then build depth after that, you can set the foundation for your program, which I think is kind of the meta right now. Just go after those really, really good guys. Even if you're a 1-star school, you can get 4 stars. You can even get a 5-star if you give them enough time. And there's a couple things that are important to them, like proximity to home is a good one for a smaller school because they don't have a lot else to offer other than being really close to home. So those are things that you can do to bring them, and then you can build that core of, let's say 5-6 really, really good players. And then the following off seasons for recruiting, then you can build your depth and get more 3 stars, 2 stars, things like that. So that would be my next tip, guys, is just go after dogs. Get that core foundation of who you're going to build your program around. Maybe do that every few seasons. If you're doing like a 30-year rebuild, maybe you do that once every 4-year cycle, get it, 4, 5, 6 dogs, and then build the depth. And then slowly but surely your program's going to be getting better because now you have depth, you have really good playmakers on offense and defense, and then you can build your program off of that. And if you're enjoying the video, boys, we're on the road to 5K subs. And at that time, guys, we'll be doing a giveaway of a PSN or an Xbox gift card to one lucky subscriber on my channel. But currently, over 90% of you are ineligible for that giveaway. And we're gonna get there really soon, so make sure you smash that like button, guys, and you subscribe to the channel. Now on to scouting. Guys, one thing you got to know about scouting, guys, is that you're not going to be getting the full overalls about scouting in the game. You're not going to get what their overalls are going to be. You're just going to get a lot of attributes. And basically there's a few cracked attributes that I will detail in a little bit. But the first thing you want to do, I know I said you want to go in there and give scholarships, but guys, realistically, you want to scout right away and scout him a little bit, make sure he's good. Okay, no alarming things. Let's give him a scholarship. And I'll tell you what the alarming things are. You sometimes get a red gem, which means he's going to be a bust. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be an absolute bust if he's a 5-star, but maybe you're overshooting for him if he's a 5-star. Maybe he's a 4 or a 3-star. He's still going to be a really good player, but he's not going to be that 5-star caliber guy that's going to be playing on Sundays like you once thought. Then we go through this quarterback. As you can see, guys, the difference in quarterback, and there it is. We got one bad bust. He's not going to be an absolute 5-star. He might be a 3-star, 4-star, but then you can see the throw power. Throw power, here's another tip, fellas. Throw power is one of the most cracked skills to look at for a quarterback. That usually indicates how good of a quarterback he's going to be. An 89 throw power is not very good. He's pretty slow at 80. If he's got a 90 plus throwing power, it's usually a good indicator of how good of a quarterback he's going to be. I don't know. That's what I've seen in most videos right now. And that's why you always scout first, because if you get that red gem, guys, we're going to go ahead and not offer him a scholarship, and we can go back and add another guy to our board, do the same process over and offer him a scholarship. So what you do here is that when you go back, all you do is hold Y or triangle and then just remove them from your board. And you can see the difference in coaching, right? USC's coaches are really, really good at scouting offensive players. They take about 5 to 8 clicks to scout on defense, and they only take about 3 clicks to scout on offense, which is a huge difference, that's why coaching matters, why coaching abilities matter. Making sure that you create a balanced coaching group brings me to my next tip, guys. Having balanced coaches that bring different kinds of archetypes and different kind of balance to your program is very important. If you're really good at, scouting quarterbacks and receivers, maybe your offensive coordinator that's really good at scouting running backs and running linemen. But basically then you're going to go through and do that with every single one of the recruits, making sure that every guy you target is not, a red gem, and then you fill in the cracks and make sure you target all 35 guys. And if you're at a smaller school, guys, there's going to be certain attributes that you're going to want to look out for. So make sure you don't offer scholarships, even though scholarship is only 5 recruiting hours, those add up. So make sure you're not just giving away scholarships just for the hell of it. Make sure you scout first, make sure they're not a red gem, and then remove them from your board and add guys that are deserving of that scholarship. One thing you can keep in mind, guys, is that, speed matters. So if look at that guy, maybe I don't need to even recruit him even more. I know he's going to be a dog. Let's save some time. If you're at a smaller school, this is very important. Don't spend all your scouting if you don't need to, because recruiting hours are, very precious. So go and get just go and find the attributes that matter most, which for receivers, running backs, any kind of offensive player that's a playmaker, speed is king, right? 97 speed, we know he's going to be good. We don't need to scout him anymore. We don't need to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and offer him and let's move on to the next guy. So basically, even if you don't get to all 35 guys, you don't have to go and have all 35 targets with all 35 scholarships. You can certainly go around and offer scholarships to 35 different guys. I personally like to go scout first and then offer scholarships if I know they're going to be really good players, especially if you're at a good school. If you're at a smaller school, probably just offering scholarships is the way to go, especially if they're just good players. You don't have the luxury of affording, hey, is this foul or 5-star going to be a bust? No, just go and get, 3 stars, 4 stars. And if they're going to be bust, cool, they're still going to be really good players, especially if you're at a 1-star program and they're like 3 or 4-star kind of players. So that brings me to my next tip, guys. Do not waste time, guys. If you're at a small school, offer scholarships right away. And as soon as you get into the season, start scouting everyone really, really hard right away, especially those few players. And like I said earlier, I'm gonna say it again, guys. If you're gonna recruit dogs and you need to build a core, if you need a core group to build your program around, guys, make sure it's always that first group that you just recruit a few good players and then build depth in the seasons after that. You can get more, 2 or 3 stars after that, but in the first season, really target 4-star players. Try to get as many good players as you can. It's not going to be a whole lot. You're probably only going to have 5 to 7 guys sign if you're at a small school, but that's going to take you a long way. And adding depth to those guys is going to be much more beneficial than just consistently getting 3 stars slowly but surely building up the program from there. Sometimes, guys, as good as if you can be at the game, it's not about the X's and the O's like they say in the game. It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. Next, guys, another thing you can do, guys, right away is customize schedules. You can customize, we have 2 open slots here. We can put in players that'll help us with rankings and stuff and blah, blah, blah. Maybe getting an early win against, the Pandas would be fine. If you're at a smaller school, maybe let's not schedule LSU week 1. Maybe let's not start off with a fat L. Conference play, you can't move conference play. We get that. If you're playing certain teams, let's just switch it up with like the Northwest Shocks or, the Pandas. Shout out to, not the expert. Especially if you're a small school, guys, control your schedules. Do not schedule in Alabama week 1. There is just no benefit to doing that, especially if you're like at Kennesaw State. 1, you're going to get ran over. 2, it's just not good. It's just not good for morale. Always make sure that you're jumping in, guys, and you're adjusting your coaching skills. So once you go in there, you spend, money on those guys. You can go in here and then spend money on these guys as well. Just make sure that you know what their strengths are. So, you go over here to my offensive coordinator. He's he's also a technician. He gives us quarterback boost. He gives us running back boost. He's all offense, right? And then he gives us, somewhere down. He's a leveled up coach. You can always add things to these guys to make them a little bit better. But I think building out your guy first, based on the guys that you're already hired, or building out or hiring out certain abilities, is going to be the best thing that you can do. And basically then you dive into the season, guys, and we have one guy that's reached us in his top 8. There he is, Demario Willis, and we're in his top 8. And basically how this goes, guys, as you can see the overview, it's at the top, it's top 8, then top 5, and then top 3. You got to make sure. So right now we're in the top 8. Now we got to get from top 6 to top 5. So what are we going to do? We haven't offered this guy a scholarship. We haven't even scouted him yet. And you can see that our hours changed to the regular season, 800 hours a week. But what does that mean? That's going to be all recurring hours. So if I'm constantly scouting a guy or sending the house every single week, those are all recurring. So you'll see what that looks like, and it's all added up on the left-hand side. And basically, as you remove guys from your board, then you have hours to give or allocate somewhere else. First thing I like to do, guys, is I like to go through here and build out those gems. So that right end that we really need it, remember? So you got to be very selective. Sending the house is not beneficial for every guy, but when you're not in their top 8, that's probably the move. And then I like to go through here, guys, and just go through all the gems that we found, right? And making sure that we consistently getting the message across that we need him. So that's why we're sending the house on these guys. And then we can go through and then, go scout other guys that we hadn't scouted before. We still have 440 hours to go. So you can go and just keep scouting guys like we were doing earlier. And you can go through, guys, and you can see guys that haven't even been offered scholarships. Like this guy, Logan Bernhardt. He's going to be a 3-star receiver. You know what? We can go in there and just give him a shot. Hasn't been offered a scholarship. Neither has this guy, Vernon Hicks. And we're number 1 on their boards, and they have not even been offered a scholarship. Look at this 4-star. 4-star receiver has not been offered a scholarship. There's a lot of guys falling through the cracks, guys. This is another tip. Make sure you go through, guys, and throughout the season, you go through, check out how many guys have been offered. If there says no and they have 0 offers, have we offered them? No. Do they have any? No, they have 0. So let's get in there and let's scout them. Let's see how they're doing. It could be an easy recruit that we can bring to the team. But make sure you're always going through those underappreciated players, making sure that you look at your scheme fits, look at the pipelines, look at the scheme fits, look at what your coaches can bring you that you know that are your weaknesses. That's always key to this game. Another thing I said I feel like was not talked about, guys, you can literally go in here and you can edit your player. Obviously, you can edit their name or their number. You can literally edit their gear and make them look a little bit cooler if that's what you want to do. I mean, this takes a lot of time, but I mean, if you got to bring in a guy that you really like and you want to make him look swaggy and you want to build him, like if you recruit a quarterback and you want to build this cool story around him, that's what you can do. I feel like that wasn't talked about enough. Just go to the roster, click the player card, and then, you know, move over and then do that as well. And guys, as you go through your prospect list, it's very easy. So once this guy's in your top 5, making sure that once you go ahead and schedule them, scheduling that visit, make sure it's it's against a good opponent. But if you're scheduling a cornerback, right, making sure that you know exactly what he needs. So clearly right now, we don't know exactly what he needs for that visit. We know he wants pro potential, so maybe we can do that for his visit. But also scheduling guys that he's going to want to vibe with. So if we have another guy that's in our top 5 that's going to be on defense, maybe we schedule a visit with him as well. And then, you know, those defensive players both having pro potential, they want to go to the pros. They're both on the defensive side, making sure that they're there together. Receivers, quarterbacks, running backs, things like that, making sure those guys are in, they're vibing together, scheduling out those, you know, visits strategically and knowing exactly what they need. And as you unlock those things on the right-hand side, guys, then you'll find out more things that they need. Once you find out exactly what they need, then you can go in there and start hard selling them, soft selling them, things like that, which basically you just go through and find exactly what that matches with. And that's basically the hard and soft sell, which is just continuous pressure to get this guy to sign with you, especially when he's between the top 5 to top 3 range. All right, guys, and then you're jumping into the transfer portal. At the end of every season, guys, depending on how the season went, obviously our season didn't go very well. I just went through it. We went 5-7. But basically what you do is at that time, you can upgrade your coaching skills if you haven't done so already. And then you go into the transfer portal on off-season recruiting, which is basically you jumping into the transfer portal, looking at who's on the transfer portal and start, you know, offering scholarships immediately. And then these transfer portal guys, the better they are, you better hop on them right away. But then now let's jump into the most important thing, guys, which is going to be the gameplay videos of this game. The gameplay tips that I have for you that are going to help you just be a little bit better at Dynasty Mode, that are kind of basic, but at the same time can go a long way in helping you just, you know, not be completely terrible, especially if you're playing on a hard difficulty like All-American or high. On defense, first thing you want to do, first tip, guys, if you're playing defense, is simple. Don't call a play until you see what formation they're in. If they're not in a formation, don't call a play. When you're calling your plays, don't use coach suggestions. Call your own plays. Learn the playbooks. You want to get good at this game, learn the playbooks. Don't use the coach's recommended plays. So when you're calling plays, guys, on offense, you want to go deep versus the press. Always send a guy deep. If you see press on the left side like there is on Hudson there, don't be afraid to switch it up and go deep. Take shots, boys. This is on Heisman difficulty. Take shots in this game, guys. This is literally on Heisman difficulty. They're pressing you like that. Take a shot. If you got a fast guy on the outside, every single time, fellas, every single time, take a shot at the outside. And get comfortable with doing the option. I have been messing up the option all day. Make sure you practice how to run the option, when to give it, when to take it, things like that. Make sure that if you're playing defense, angles are super important. One play I love to jump in, guys, that's easy for beginners to understand, guys, is for my first gameplay tip is run the mesh route. When in doubt, run mesh. Just for the love of Christ, guys, make sure you're practicing your kicks. Just make your kicks. That's all you gotta do, really. Just practice. Literally just get used to one side, and then once you kick it, do that. Just practice the kicks. Please don't lose games by just missing field goals or missing extra points. And literally to kick an extra point, all you have to do is tap it. Just tap it when it's right in the middle. You don't even have to hold it. Just tap it when it's right in the middle if you're doing an extra point. Now, if you're kicking a field goal, make sure you hold it. But guys, get used to one side. If you're gonna, you know, pick from the right side every time, pick it from the right side every time. If you have not subscribed to the channel, guys, for that giveaway, make sure you do that, fellas. And comment down below your favorite Dynasty team from the gameplay that we've seen so far. We're going to be diving into some gameplay content soon, and I'd love to hear about your guys' favorite teams. And remember, boys, nice guys finish first, and God bless. Peace.